One of the principles that I teach is the Mercedes principle, and I'd like to tell you a little bit more about that today. Many years ago, I think it was towards the end of 1983, I got to a farmer and he had a 380 SL. It was a sporty Mercedes, a red one, a convertible one, and you know, a red convertible sports car with a farmer did not make a lot of sense to me at that stage. And I asked him, how is it and why is it that he's got this 380 SL? And he just bought it. It was brand new. And he said to me, the reason why he's buying only Mercedeses, and specifically this, is because of the Mercedes principle. So I said to him, what's the Mercedes principle? And he said to me, if you want to have an incredible life and enjoy your life and become rich, then you must apply the Mercedes principle. And I said to him, for a second time, I asked him, I said, okay, but what is this Mercedes principle? And he said to me, honest, it's actually a very simple principle. You look at this Mercedes badge. Now, those days, the 380 SL had this massive, it's a sport car with this massive Mercedes badge right in front on the grille, almost like this one, okay? And he said to me, the first third is you take your income, whatever that income may be, you take a third of your income and you reinvest that, and that third must give you the maximum growth. That's the function of the first third. This portion here, the second third, what you do is you build security with that. In other words, if you've got debt, then you repay that debt in order to build up security, or you stack it away, even if it's in a savings account, so that if you need the money, if you need the security in order to grow your money or to use it for a bargain that you can find, that's what you're going to find. And the third third, that portion there, is then your Joel money. And I said to him, what do you mean with Joel? Of course he was Afrikaans. He said to me, that is your enjoyment. In other words, that's the money that you enjoy. For example, this Mercedes, or he said the Mercedes that he bought, that's from his enjoyment portion. In other words, he basically saved a third of his income over a period of time so that he could buy that car cash, and that is his enjoyment. But that came from that third. So I did not pay too much attention to that at that stage. It was a fascinating concept to me, and I remember saying to my wife, I think there's a lot of merit, but it didn't really make sense to me until 1984. In 1984, a lot of things happened to me, but one of the things that happened to me was that I basically almost got fired. I was working as an agent for Old Mutual at that stage. Someone stole my commission, and suddenly it was touch and go for me to basically, the manager said to me, unless you go back to the client, said to him that you're in the wrong, you are fired, I want your car keys, your wife's car keys, and I'm giving you till Friday. That was on a Monday in February. I'm going to give you till Friday to transfer your house from the perm into your own personal name, because as of this moment you are fired, unless you go back to the client and tell the client that you were in the wrong and tear up the affidavit that the client made. And that is when the Mercedes principle started making an incredible sense to me. Tanya and myself sat down and we said, how can we make sure that we're never going to be in a position like that where someone can tell you, listen, you haven't got a job anymore, even if you were right. And I remember coming back to the Mercedes principle, and I said to Tanya, what if we start applying the Mercedes principle in our lives? And we did a calculation, and we could see that we could still enjoy life. There's no reason why we can't enjoy life and go forward in life and enjoy it. But what if we apply the third for growth and a third then to repay back our debt so that we could get out of debt? And that is for the first time that we started applying the Mercedes principle to its fullest potential, so to speak. Of course, after that, I took the Mercedes principle, I adjusted it, and today it's part of that I teach. I'm just giving you the outline of the Mercedes principle. But here's my deal with you, or my guarantee to you. If you really apply the Mercedes principle in the way that you can apply it, and the way that you should apply it, and the way that I teach my students, because of that principle, because of that, we were out of all our debt, our house, our 2 cars. Well, that was basically the only debt that we had within 3 years and 7 months. And the greatest thing about this whole part, by applying that principle, it did not cost me a cent more in terms of my standard of living. In other words, I literally became debt free and started growing my asset base, my security base in a matter of 3 years and 7 months. And then in 1987, I made these breakthroughs that I'm teaching today about the wealth creator strategy and the formula for riches and how to apply that. But it was because I had a surplus, and I then wanted to find out, but what can I do with that surplus in order to grow it to the maximum. So there you know about the Mercedes principle. If you've got any comments, please give me your comments, ideas, questions, feel free to ask. And feedback, today's day 23, so for 23 days in a row I'm using myself as an example to show people to become successful you have to form habits, and it's not necessarily that it's money habits, but it's physical habits as well, right? Because unless we are healthy and unless our body operates at full capacity, it's going to be difficult to be able to enjoy life to the fullest extent. In other words, to make use of that portion there. Right, so I'll give you feedback on what I've done. I think it was just under 130 beats per minute. And then I'll see you tomorrow. And I think what I'm going to do tomorrow, I'm going to tell you about the Kaizen principle. My registration on this car, by the way, is a Kaizen. Okay, and I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Kaizen and why that is my registration number. And it's been, by the way, I had that registration number now I think for about 20 years or at least 15 years. Right, so I'll see you then tomorrow.